Senator Dennis. Here. Senator Ratty. Here. Senator Kiekeffer. Here. Senator Sievers-Gansert. Here. Chair Neal.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and do the work session first. Mr. Reel, can we start with SB 440? Broadcast.
Chair Neal, this is BPS. Were you looking for Mr. Reel?
Okay.
Unfortunately, we don't have him on the Zoom yet.
Okay, so we will hold off for a couple of minutes. BPS is Mr. Reel. Okay. So, fiscal staff, we're going to go ahead and start with work session, and then we'll hear 367. So, Mr. Reel, I want to start with SB 440.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Joe Reel, Deputy Fiscal Analyst with the Fiscal Analysis Division. And our first bill on work session today is Senate Bill 440. This bill creates a sales tax holiday for certain members of the Nevada National Guard and certain relatives of such members. sponsored by the Committee on Finance on behalf of the Office of Finance and the Office of the Governor, and heard in this committee on May 18th. This bill provides an exemption from sales and use tax on purchases of tangible personal property from members of the Nevada National Guard who are on active status and who are residents of this state and certain relatives of such members of the Nevada National Guard if the purchase occurs on the date in which Nevada Day is observed or the immediately following Saturday and Sunday. The bill also revises the eligibility requirements for the current exemption that is authorized for members of the Nevada National Guard called into active service to provide that this exemption is available to these members and certain relatives if the member has been called into active duty for a period of more than 30 days outside of the United States. There are amendments proposed. The two amendments in the work session document have been withdrawn. There is a third amendment that was submitted by the governor's office that is available on Nellis. And that proposed amendment would add provisions that comply with Section 6 of Article 10 of the Nevada Constitution, which requires the legislature to make certain findings before enacting an exemption. And then also it would revise the effective date such that the exemption would expire after a period of 10 years. And with that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Members, any questions on the work session document? Senator Kekeffer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think Mr. Reel indicated that it would expire after 10 years, but it looks like it's 30 years. Or, I'm sorry, yes, 30 years in the mock-up.
There's an amendment on
So-
Nellis.
There's a proposed amendment on Nellis that's submitted by the governor's office that changes that.
So we're not doing the mock-up, we're doing the one that's proposed by the governor.
Correct. So
Okay,
you have
I
a
was
green
confused.
5.5, section 5.5.
I've got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I haven't been able to find that one yet.
So
do
it's
we need
in,
to go under
it's
the
in your,
meeting?
it's in your stack. It has green language that says submitted by the governor's office. Add new section 5.5. Yep, that's it.
Madam Chair, while folks are looking at that, I
Okay.
just want to clarify.
Senator Ratty.
I apologize. I just want to clarify that we are not, I think what I just heard Mr. Reel said is we are not accepting the amendment that was proposed during the hearing and instead are accepting this one, or are we accepting both?
So we are accepting the one submitted by the governor's office, not Amendment 1 and 2.
So not the mock-up proposed amendment 3403 to Senate Bill 440 that was submitted on May 18th.
So it's my understanding we are going to take Amendment 3403, adding Section 5.5, which is an expansion of the findings, and then we are adding amendment to Section 6, which reduces that 30 years to 10 years.
Okay.
But I had proposed an amendment, which was Amendment number 2, to do 5 years, and I am withdrawing that amendment. And Amendment number 1 is also being withdrawn because this third amendment changes that date even further.
And is amendment number 1,
Amendment number 1 is at the back of your mock-up.
okay,
It says amendments number 1 and then amendment number 2.
okay. So the motion is just the mock-up and the new amendment from the governor.
Correct.
Thank you for the clarity.
So any questions on the mock-up and the amendment submitted by the governor office? Okay. All right, so I will then take a motion on the mock-up and the amendment submitted by the governor.
I would make a motion to amend do pass with the amendments including proposed amendment 3403 to Senate Bill number 440 with the addition of the proposed amendment to Senate Bill 440 submitted by the governor's office today.
Okay, I have a second from Senator Dennis. Any discussion on the motion? So I have discussion on the motion. I'm going to support the measure, but I did want a lower threshold so that the nexus of the sales tax holiday would have a rational relationship to the public policy purpose that was put on the record about the pandemic. Being that the pandemic was in 2020 and there were several comments on the record about the virus and its relationship, I wanted the 5 years, but I deferred to what the governor wanted, but I feel very strongly about the 5 years. And so I will vote it out of committee, but I feel like the adverse impact on tax is significant in the 10 years because of the expanded base of individuals that are included in the measure. So with that being said, I will take, Secretary will do the roll call.
Senator Dennis? Senator Ratty? Senator Kekeffer? Senator Severs Gansert? Chair Neal?
Yes. All right, so the motion passes. I will assign this floor statement to Senator Kekeffer. All right, Mr. Reel, the next SB 441.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, for the record, Joe Reel, Deputy Fiscal Analyst with the Fiscal Analysis Division. The next bill is Senate Bill 441. This bill revises provisions governing the issuance and renewal of a seller's permit, sponsored by the Committee on Finance on behalf of the Office of Finance and the Office of the Governor, and heard on May 13th. This bill establishes that a permit issued by the Department of Taxation to a seller of tangible personal property expires on December 31st of each year. The bill authorizes a seller who has been issued a permit to renew the permit by filing an application for renewal with the department and paying an annual renewal fee of $5. If the application and fee for renewal are not received by the department on or before January 31st of each year, the department is authorized to revoke the permit. The bill would also establish provisions in NRS 377 for the issuance, renewal, and suspension and revocation of a seller's permit with an initial and annual renewal fee of $5 under the city-county tax relief law, and also as in the same manner as under NRS 372 of NRS and 374. During the hearing, Shelley Hughes, Chief Deputy with the Department of Taxation, did submit a conceptual amendment, and it would basically restructure the provisions such that the provisions for the $15 annual seller's permit fee would be established in Chapter 360 of NRS rather than individually within NRS Chapters 372, 374, and 377. And would also establish provisions for the distribution of the $15 annual permit fee, such that $5 would be distributed to the general fund based on the current distribution of the seller's permit under NRS 372. $5 would be distributed to the state education fund based on the current distribution of the seller's fee under NRS Chapter 374. And then $5 would be distributed to local governments based on the current distribution of the basic city-county relief tax under NRS 377. And then finally would establish provisions that would not require the ordinances adopted under NRS 377, 377A, and 377B in any special local acts, to include provisions that require the payment of the seller's fee to the Department of Taxation within those ordinances. And with that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on the work session document? Okay, seeing no questions, I will accept a motion to amend and do pass. So I have a first from Senator Dennis. Second from Senator Ratty. Any discussion on the motion? Senator Severs Gansert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to be a no on this. I guess I'm not sure why we're raising it. I understand that they want to make it annual instead of like a one-time. I guess part of it, I understand the rationale, but I also know that when the Economic Forum came in, they came in with a lot more money, and we've got a lot of federal money coming, so I'm just going to be a no for now. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just want to flag for everybody, I'm not certain if this is a budget implementation bill or not, but I want to flag that it may be because we referred some to committees before we had our experience on the floor yesterday. So I'm just going to take a look and just want to flag that this may be something that was tied to a prior conversation in money committees. We'll take a look. It's ringing a bell, and so I think that that may be the case.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Ratty. I thought that was the purpose. This was an alternative way for the Department of Taxation to give themselves a revenue that they needed in order to do their duties. And so this increase would allow them to do it without certain other appropriations, I thought.
And here's what I will say. We've had tremendous success with the revised economic forum, being able to add back a lot of the cuts that were proposed in the governor's budget from the first budget that he had to put forward during a pandemic that was based on the December revenue. We have not had sufficient funds to add everything back. So some of the things that were done to balance the budget we're going to need to keep in place. So I'm happy to have further conversation with everybody on this, but I'm 99% certain that this is implementing something that is in the governor's budget.
So, Madam Chair, I'm going to vote no, but I'll look at it again so I can track it back. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Senator Severs-Ganser. Any additional discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Secretary, do the roll call.
Senator Dennis? Senator Ratty? Senator Kieckhofer? Senator Severs-Ganser? Chair Neal?
Yes. All right, so the motion carries. I will assign this floor statement to, okay, Senator Ratty. All right. Okay, so then I will turn Senator Dennis, so you can chair the next bill, because I'm presenting. Thanks.
Okay, we're going to open the hearing on SB 367, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Senator Dean and Neal, for the record, everybody should have the proposed amendment 3401 to Senate Bill 367. And then there is also a conceptual amendment which proposes a change to the definition of governmental entity in SB 367. So I will go ahead and start the opening on SB 367. So this bill, you've seen the number before, but this was a revised bill that we brought back to deal with the issue that was going on with the LET. It was brought to our attention that there were certain entities charging a reservation fee. And so this bill, if you go to section 1, expands the definition of what is an admission charge to include any fee or charge that must be paid to reserve or guarantee the right to pay at the same time or in the future, and an additional fee or charge in exchange for admission to the facility where live entertainment is provided. In addition, the bill brings back the strikeouts for the 7,500. So in the other version, it was 5,000, and it returns the 7,500. And then in the back of the bill, in section 2, it then replaces the language that was struck out about an athletic contest, and then adds that live entertainment is provided by or that live entertainment that is provided by or entirely for the benefit of a governmental entity is not in the LAT. And then it changes the effective date to passage, upon passage and approval. So the governmental entity definition, it came to it was brought to our attention by believe it was GCB, Gaming Control Board, that governmental entity was not defined. And so we added the definition that was now in NRS 372325 to apply to these provisions, so that if there's anything that is being done by a government entity for the purpose of that government entity, it is not subject to the LET, and then further define that. So with that, I will open myself up for questions on the bill, because I think there's more policy conversation around the change versus the language.
Questions? Senator Kieckhofer.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, Senator Dennis? I don't know. All right, Vice. So thank you. So Senator, can we start with the governmental entity? What types of events are being captured by events, live entertainment that is provided by or entirely for the benefit of a governmental entity? I'm just having a hard time envisioning.
Thank you for the question, Senator Kieckhofer, because these are the events that are excluded from the LET. So, for example, like in Clark County, we have jazz that's put on by Clark County, and there may be a ticket. They do reggae in the desert, which may be a ticket, but the funds go to Clark County. They're not necessarily going for anyone else's benefit, except for the direct benefit to the government who is putting on a live entertainment event, but they're not charged to LET. It's my understanding there are also, rodeos that are up here up north that are, could be put on by the government that would be exempt in this scenario as well.
So is the LVCVA a governmental entity?
So that is a really good question, because I know it says political subdivisions of the state, but that is probably a question for Mr. Gendon, because I didn't think that the LVCVA was a governmental entity per se under this bill. But Mr. Gendon, can you add some context, or Director Young?
Yeah, Mr. Gendon, can
This
you
is Russell Gendon
address that
with
question?
fiscal analysis. I can attempt to. But we may need Department of Taxation. It's my understanding that I believe the LVCVA is a governmental entity that's funded by the room tax. And so I don't know what live entertainment tax they would be putting on, but if they would probably be out. But that's possibly an answer better answered by, we have representatives from the Gaming Control Board and the Department of Taxation here. But Senator Kieckhofer, as Senator Neal was saying, yeah, that we have events like local governments are putting on rodeos or fairs where there may be a concert, and it's totally put on by the local government. And so when we were looking at this, we found that they would inadvertently, I believe, taken out in the 2015 legislation, the exemption that was in place for local governments up to that 2015 legislation.
Okay, as a result of that change in 2015, did we see a decline in revenue or anything like that, or do you think we're going to capture a lot that we're not collecting right now, or I say not capture a lot that we are collecting right now with the addition of government back in?
It's hard to say from your staff's point of view, because clearly we know there's a few of these smaller events in the rural counties that are being sponsored and others, but who we did pick up by taking them out in 2015, I don't have that information available to me. It's possible that the Department of Taxation, because this would be under the non-gaming side, more of the tax administered by the Department of Taxation. But with all the changes that were made in 2015, would have been hard for us to sort out any gain that would have been due to picking up governmental entities compared to the other changes that were made in the bill. Because again, we don't get information on the events. We just get the tax that's collected, reported to us.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I guess just finally on this point, is the language that we're reinserting sort of the exact duplicate of what was changed in 15?
Senator Neal, if you'd like, I can take that. So, no, it is not, Senator Kieckhofer. The effect is the same, but the structurally, it's statutorily a little different. That you can see, as Senator Neal pointed out, we're adding the new paragraph P on page 5 to the list of things that are not deemed to be included in the live entertainment tax. Prior to 2015, this comes out of when the live entertainment tax was originally created in the 2003 special session. That it still actually exists in Chapter 368A. There's a definition of business entity, and the business entity term says it does not include a governmental entity. And then that term, governmental business entity, was utilized in Section 368A.200, which is where the 9% tax is actually being attached to live entertainment. And so what we believe is in 2015, that when the changes were being made in Senator Liparelli's bill, I believe it was SB 266 in the 2015 session, the phrasing in the term business entity was inadvertently taken out of 368A.200, which then left taxation in the position of the exemption for governmental entities was removed because of the removal of the term business entity from 368A.200. So thus, as we talk through this, your fiscal staff and legal staff, the decision was made to statutorily construct it this way because we think it makes it much clearer where the definition is for a governmental entity in the statute and potentially avoid an inadvertent striking of it if we would have gone back to the original statutory structure pre-2015 session.
Do you have any other questions?
I do, but I can back off for a little bit if you want me to.
No. Do you have anything you want to add? Senator Gansert.
Thank you, Senator Dennis. And so I'm looking at page 5 where it talks about an athletic contest, event, or exhibition. So we're putting that back in.
Yes, so the original 367 had that struck out, and so we were replacing it.
Okay. And then there's some language about reservations.
That's in section 1.
So when someone makes a reservation and they pay to make a reservation, they don't necessarily get a ticket. And I don't know if all reservation funds are refunded after that. So if you have to pay $50 to make a reservation and then when the time for ticketing comes up, you aren't able to get a ticket. So, and I'm just not quite sure how that works, because I know I've signed up, say, for like an event, more like an athletic event, and you have to go into a lottery, so you put money in on a reservation, and then you may not get a ticket to the event. I'm not sure how that would work.
So, Senator Dina Neal, for the record, so this particular situation was, or what's going on, or what we're trying to prevent currently and in the future, is that they are establishing a reservation to go in and buy a ticket. And that reservation is holding your place in line. And so the rationale here was that you're going to charge $2,500 to get in line to then buy the ticket, but that is being seen as an actual admission charge. And so we had dealt with this, something similar to this, where you would then have a $50 ticket and then have maybe a $500 fee that's then attached to it, so then you could go and get that ticket. So those two things are, the idea is that you're still charging that individual to get to that event. Even if they don't get access to that ticket, it's still a price of admission. And so it's concerning, because if the individuals were not trying to use it, or the company was not trying to use it to then gain access, then it might be different. But they are setting it up. And in this case, for the issue that we ran into, which I might as well just put it on the record, it was an issue with Burning Man, it's non-refundable. So they're charging you $2,500 to just be in the pool to get in line to then go and buy this ticket. And in the view of Department This was a taxable event for LET. Number one, because the amount, I think that amount triggered a whole lot of conversation. And whether or not this was a price of admission, because technically it is.
But it sounds like in some cases they don't get admission, so they still don't get the ticket. So they paid a reservation and then to get a ticket, but then they never got to go to the event.
So, I mean,
Senator Neal.
go ahead, Ms.
Sorry, Senator Neal, I apologize for having to do this live since you don't have your laptop there. We can't IM. But I think we can possibly we have Melanie Young, the executive director, and so as your staff, we're looking at this is that you're adding clarification to the definition of admission charge. Thus, the Department of Taxation, the Gaming Control Board would administer payments made and the tax collected as admission charges and the tax collected on admission charges as they would any other admission charges. But I think perhaps Melanie Young, as the executive director of taxation, might be able to provide the response to the specific question that Senator Severs-Gansert is asking, if you're okay with allowing that.
That's fine. Director Young?
Good afternoon, Melanie Young, Executive Director for the Nevada Department of Taxation. To Senator Severs-Gansert, your question, if I can restate the question to make sure I have it correctly, if a person is paying a reservation but does not actually purchase the ticket, will the LET tax be refunded? And the way the Department of Taxation looks at that is if the reservation charge is non-refundable, then LET would not be refunded pursuant to NAC 368A.170 subsection 4. However, if the taxpayer refunds the reservation charge along with the LET assessed on that charge to the customer, then the department would refund the LET.
Thank you. I have one
And
other.
I hope that answers your questions.
So thank you for that answer. And then I have one other question. So there's a triathlon event where you have to pay $100 to get into the lottery, and sometimes there are marathons too. You have to pay $100 to get into the lottery, but you may or may not prevail, and those are usually non-refundable too. So what happens with that? And those are typically the ones I've seen are out of state, but they do charge you a fee to get into the lottery, and then the odds are you aren't going to get it. But so what happens with something like that?
Thank you, Melanie Young, Executive Director. For the record, to Senator Severs-Gansert's question, it would be the same answer if that reservation fee to get into the event is non-refundable. The department would look at that the same way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Senator Kekeffer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not necessarily seeing this as a clarification. I see this as a change or an addition to what we are considering an admission charge. So maybe you could indicate, are there other systems or other reservation systems or seat privileges or whatever it might be that you currently tax, and this is really just clarifying in statute and you're already applying this tax in other areas like this?
Senator Kekeffer, are you asking Ms. Young?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. If you would answer, please.
Thank you, Melanie Young, Executive Director. For the record, to Senator Kekeffer's question, the way we're looking at this is in the language of NRS 368A.020 under subsection 4, it expressly excludes licenses or rental fees. And thus any other fee that's not expressly excluded from the statute, we would fall under subsection 2 of that statute. And as a result, we would find that the reservation fee is currently taxable and that the language in SB 267 is just clarifying the language. And to explain a little bit further, the language in NRS 368A.020 subsection 2 provides that any fee or charge that is required to be paid in exchange for admission to a facility where a live entertainment event is provided, that this reservation fee would fall under that. And so we look at this as clarifying language.
So What, in a scenario where you have to purchase something else or pay something else to have the right to buy tickets, whether it's sponsorships, I know that we specifically exempt, for example, license and rental fees for luxury suites, but that's a specific rental. What about, if there's other consideration offered that is required in order to access the facility or buy tickets, is that taxable now or not?
So thank you, Melanie Young, Executive Director, for the question from Senator Kekeffer. If back into the previous answer to the question, if it's not expressly identified as an exemption, then we would have it fall under that subsection 2, where it would be included.
So if and I'll use the example I used with Ms. Neal earlier, right? If there's a section in the Smith Center, right, that requires you to be a sponsor in order to buy tickets to the event, and so you have to pay, you have to be a $25,000 member in order to access those tickets. Is that $25,000 taxable under the LET? They're not available to the general. They're not available to the general public unless you pay the fee, right?
Thank you, Senator Kekeffer. Melanie Young, Executive Director, for the question. That is a good question. I would have to defer to legal counsel to further, go into those specific situations.
Senator Dina Neal, for the record. So Dr. Director Young said, Senator Kekeffer asked me this earlier, and I took it as if there was someone who was a donor, right, which means that they're acting in the role of kind of that complimentary, or they're doing a donation in order to gain access, that it is entirely different circumstance to donate, to be a part of, versus I am paying a fee to then attend. Because I think a donation and a fee, I think we have defined them differently within statute. And then I also saw a similar connection when you look at in section 368A 0.20, when we're talking about the fee that someone may charge in order to get a box seat. Whether or not, if someone pays and it's a donation, how that's treated within the nonprofit framework, that would be excluded. But, we can let Brian Fernley talk about it, because I think when we look at those definitions, an entertainment fee, a covered charge, a required minimum purchase for food, beverages, or merchandise, or a membership fee, or a service charge, or any fee that's paid to reserve or guarantee the right to pay at the same time or in the future, is very different than a donation, which is gratuitous to me for the person who receives the benefit. It is not for them, it is for the benefit of someone else. So that's how I interpreted it. So when I answered Senator Keffer earlier, I made the distinction. So.
Okay, before we go to Mr. Fernley, I believe that Senator Gansert has a question. Just a follow-up on
Just like an add-up. So thank you, Senator Dennis. So I was thinking about, the U.S. tax law changed around what's a charitable donation versus a fee for access. And so when you look at, and I know I don't think we covered in here, but like athletic events. So if you have season tickets for football games at one of the universities, it used to be a donation to get into the category to get certain types of tickets, and then they basically just made it a fee because those aren't tax deductible anymore. So I don't know what else is out there, like charitable organizations where you actually pay money, or nonprofits, I'll say, you pay money to get access, but it's not a charitable donation. It's actually sort of a fee, and I don't know if that's going to get caught up in this.
I think, Director Young, can you speak to that? Because I think we had that conversation, not this month, but when we were talking about like box seats and the different things they charge for sporting events and how folks are getting access. So how is that currently being treated now? Because we currently have that activity going on now where somebody will get a box seat at NASCAR or somewhere else, and they pay extra money in order to have that box or luxury advantage.
Thank you. And in some instances, they're I guess part of the trick is if it's a nonprofit versus a for-profit, like a nonprofit having to pay a fee to get access versus a for-profit having to get to a certain level to get seats.
So I think, but Director Young, because I think the rule applies to both, but because I think it came up in 2015. But Director Young, can you speak to that?
So Director Young, would you respond, please?
Thank you, Melanie Young, Executive Director. To Senator Severs-Gansert's question, I would have to look into the NRS, but I believe there is a specific exemption named for box seats, and that is found in our expenditure report and identified specifically as an exemption to LAT.
So Senator Neal,
And I could have staff look that up.
So Senator Neal, for the record, is that in that exemption sub 4 where it says except as otherwise provided in subsection? This term does not include the license or rental fees for luxury suites, boxes, or similar products at facilities with a maximum occupancy of at least 7,500 persons? Or is that speaking of something else? Because that's in sub 4 in section 1, right before you get to sub 2. Because I thought that spoke to those events or things that could be going on where it could be a nonprofit that's doing it, or it could be, but we had, that specific exemption has been in play for a really long time.
Is that a question to Ms. Young?
I guess it is it's a question because that's what I thought that sub 4 meant.
I don't know if you did you understand what she's asking, Ms. Young?
Melanie Young, Executive Director. Thank you, Senator Neal, for your questions. I believe I do understand the question, and we look at that as exemption as in NRS 368A.020 sub 4. And if we want me to provide a little more clarity, I do have my compliance staff and my Chief Deputy Shelley Hughes that can provide a little more clarity to that.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on, before that.
So my
Senator Ganser.
my question was broader. So say that you wanted to get good seats to a basketball game at UNLV, and they're not box seats. They're mid-court, lower seats, and the venue that they're in is over 7,500 people, but to get access to those, you actually pay a fee. It used to be tax deductible, but it's not anymore because the U.S. tax code changed. So it's actually a fee for access to tickets near the floor in a basketball arena or a football stadium or something like that. And I'm reading through this, and I think with the change from 5,000 to 7,500, you're still picking all those up. So I'm not sure. And again, it used to be tax deductible contribution, but now they're fees because the tax code changed, I believe.
So I think, well, in your Senator Dina Neal, for the record, for your example, so if you go to sub 2, section 2, sub 4, where the tax imposed by section 1 does not apply to, that had the athletic contest or exhibition provided by an institution of INSHE or students, et cetera. So it was my understanding that athletic contests, period, whether or not they were amateur or professional, were not in, nor were they a part of the LET scheme because of the sub 4, where it said the tax imposed by LET does not apply to those exclusions, which are listed in section 2, sub 4A, B, C, and D, and then it goes on and so forth. And that's how I understood it, which is why I had the bill before this bill to try to drag in professional sports teams. So, okay.
Ms. Young, I don't know if you addressed, I mean, I think part of that was there, but can you address the issue that was asked about if it's more than 7,500 in an arena and it's at a university, is that considered a fee because it's more than the 7,500?
So thank you, Melanie Young, Executive Director, for the record. And I might have to defer to Shelley Hughes on some of these, as it's getting into some areas where I would need to bring in legal counsel on some of these questions, if that's all right.
That's fine. Is she on? Is Ms. Young?
Yes, she is.
Yeah. All right. If you would, go ahead. Just identify yourself.
Shelley Hughes, for the record. Yes, it would be, if it's more than 7,500, it would be considered a fee. We do have a regulation. It's NAC 368A.143 that discusses the computation of the tax. And so it does indicate there that when you're buying a luxury suite or box, it would be for the lowest price admission charge. Usually those box seats are bought with a bulk charge. So I hope that answers the question.
I think the question that had to do with if you're at a UNLV basketball game and you pay a fee to get seats that are closer to the floor. That's an arena that's more than 7,500. So would that be considered a fee that's taxable? Right.
Shelley Hughes, for the record, yes, we would see that as a fee that would be taxable.
And is that currently being done?
I would have to defer to our Deputy Director of Compliance, Terry Upton. She is on the phone. She oversees our compliance, but I would assume that it is being done.
Okay. Senator Kekeffer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to revise, I guess, my former question. Say it's not a donation, right? So say, so for example, I like to buy tickets to Broadway Goes to Reno or whatever it is at the Pioneer Center, right? Say they have like a platinum club or something like that, and in order to get seats for the season or something like that, I have to pay a sort of surcharge or whatever it is up front. In order to be able to access seats in a certain area. Maybe it's just, so it's not a donation, it's a fee that gets charged. Those sorts of things happen now. Do we tax that currently?
Shelley Hughes, for the record. I'm not positive about that either. I would have to talk with our staff to see how that is taxed. And we do for taxpayers out there that do have questions such as that, we do have an advisory opinion process, and they can write in and to find out if those types of fees are taxable, and we do address those in writing, and those writings are binding on the department. So that's just an option out there if those questions do come up in the future. But for the purposes of today, I could have Terry Upton address that question.
So, Senator Dina Neal, for the record. So, Ms. Upton, can you address that? Because when I look at Section 1, Sub 3B, which was the charge for the right, because this says the term does not include, the charge for the right or privilege of entering or having access to a particular portion within the facility that is in addition to the charge described in subsection 1 or 2 without limitation, a charge for food, beverage, access to tables, seats, particular areas near a swimming pool. So I just, when I heard Senator Kekeffer's question, to me that is like a cabana. And then I saw it as the same thing as me trying to get access closer in some other kind of event and seeing it as a charge for a right or privilege of entering, carving that out as the term does not include. But I'm just reading it. So, Ms. Upton.
Ms. Upton, could you address that?
Yes, I'm sorry. For some reason, I cannot start my video, but I don't have any specific situation where I know that has occurred. But from the viewpoint of an auditor, this would be exempted from statute, especially if it were any kind of athletic event from an elementary school or a high school or higher education, because those are specifically exempted within that statute. And if they are buying or purchasing access to a cabana or a box or anything like that, that would actually be purchase of the thing itself, but not admission to the event, if that provides any clarity.
So, Senator Dina Neal, for the record, Ms. Upton, can you refer to the existing language on the exclusions, which is in section 1, sub 3, A, B, 1 and 2? Because I think those speak to the latter question.
That is, yes, thank you, Terry Upton, Deputy Director for the Department. NRS 368A, .200, the subsection 4, the live entertainment is on, for athletic is A and B and C. And for the box seating, that would be NRS 368A.020, subsection 4. It would be luxury suites or boxes. That's what the auditor would look like at if they were auditing the statute in an event.
Senator Dina Neal, for the record, thank you, Ms. Upton, but I was referring to the term not including the value of admission to the facility, and that charge, which is 3 sub 3B, charge for the right or privileges of entering, and then the without limitation, a charge for the food, beverages, or access to tables, seats, lounges, chairs, or particular areas near a swimming pool. Because I think the example by Senator Kiekefer kind of fit into that kind of scenario, because you may pay extra to get a cabana to be closer to the pool so you don't burn up in Vegas, but you're still paying an additional charge, which may not be a part of the LET application.
Yes, thank you. Terry Upton, Deputy Director for the record. My apologies. I misunderstood. You are correct. That's what we would look at, is that they are gaining access to be closer to the event. It is in statute. So if there was a reserve fee to gain admission to an event, we would deem that to be taxable in the same manner that we would look at having access to this table. And I hope I'm stating that correctly.
Thank you, Senator
Okay.
Kiekefer. I mean, do you have any additional questions? Because I feel very strongly about not asking any more questions.
Senator Kiekefer.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and Madam Chair.
Oh, and I
Presenter.
think, actually, if I can help out here, when you're doing the presentation, you don't get to ask questions, so that'll help you out there.
I don't think we strike it from the record, though.
Yeah, right.
I think I'm having a hard time recognizing this as simple clarification. I think I understand what you're trying to do, but I think that even, based on the fact that we're adding this new category to section 1, subsection 2 of 368A 2020, I think it indicates that we're doing something new, and I think that's a policy choice. I just don't see it as clarification. So thank you.
Other questions? Okay, I'm not hearing any other questions. Let's go to those that wish to give testimony in support. Anyone wishing to give testimony in support, come forward. We don't have anyone here, so let's go to the lines. BPS, is there anyone online that wish to give comment in support? for testimony and support.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Dennis. The lines are open and working. However, there are no callers to testify in support of SB 367 at this time.
Okay, let's go to those in opposition. Anyone wishing to give testimony in opposition? Here or no one's here, so let's go online. Oh, here we go. I have someone on video. I can't see the name, but go ahead and make sure you identify yourself for the name, for the record. Let's see, what does it say?
Hi.
Oh, okay,
I'm
Ms.
Marnie.
Benson, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Marnie Benson with Burning Man Project, for the record. May I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Senator Dennis, Vice Chair Ratty, and members of the committee for the opportunity to speak on SB 367. Burning Man Project is strenuously opposed to the proposed amendment that may
BPS.
or fundraising
Okay.
campaign.
We lost you there for a second, so you might need to repeat.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. If that happens again, my colleague Ray Allen could take over. I have a little bit of unstable internet. I hope it'll be okay. I'll start again. Burning Man Project is, thank you for the opportunity to speak on SB 367. Burning Man Project is strenuously opposed to the proposed amendment that may have significant impacts on our event. There is a perception maybe that our recent effort to raise programmatic funds through a fundraising campaign would apply to the state's ongoing effort to generate revenue from specific events. You will see this campaign simply gave interested individuals the opportunity to get access to buy a ticket to a future Burning Man event. This can be viewed as a contribution to the nonprofit's programming, just as one might contribute to the NRA, Sierra Club, or Nevada Museum of Art. It's an opportunity to buy a ticket, and that opportunity can be waived if they choose not to attend. Let me share more. Like so many in-person event producers, Burning Man has been hard hit by the pandemic. As a nonprofit organization, we have weathered the storm in large part by the generosity of our community. To help bring back Nevada's outdoor events, we initiated an advisory group consisting of large-scale outdoor event producers, regulators, and health officials. And we consulted with Governor Sisolak's COVID-19 task force. We received bipartisan support from the Nevada delegation for this work. We're proud to be a part of Nevada and would like to remain so into the future. And yet Burning Man Project is different from any other organization. Unlike sports teams and long-running show producers, we have one primary gathering one time per year. While actual cities throughout the state may be reopening this summer, Black Rock City remains shuttered. However, we're working hard to get our organization to the moment when we can sell tickets for 2022. SB 367 potentially impacts Burning Man by purporting to tax the monies paid to support the programs of the nonprofit while also reserving a place in line to purchase a ticket in 2022 or 2023. Reservation holders may ultimately choose not to purchase a ticket to the actual event. These registrants may be entitled to tax deductions depending on whether they ultimately purchase a ticket or whether they donate in excess of the reservation amount. To levy a tax on a reservation where actual purchase of an event ticket is not guaranteed does not make sense. The LET will be paid in full, as always, if and when the individual buys an actual ticket to Black Rock City, but the reservation is an opportunity to purchase a ticket to a future event. How will the state allocate the tax on a reservation when it is impossible to determine which year the ticket would be for, or whether a ticket will even be purchased? They could be paying a tax without ever purchasing a ticket to an event in the state. An opportunity to possibly attend an event is not the same as attendance at an event. This is a unique fix for
I can pick up, it looks like.
Again.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we lost you again.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you want to pick up from
okay.
there and then just, but you need to identify yourself for the record.
Marnie Benson, Burning Man Project, for the record. I'm almost done, and I will just go back a little bit because you lost me there. The live entertainment tax will be paid in full, as always, if and when the individual buys an actual ticket to Black Rock City, but the reservation is an opportunity to purchase a ticket to a future event. How will the state allocate the tax?
That's where she cut out last time. Right there, yeah.
paying a tax without ever purchasing a ticket to an event in the state. An opportunity to possibly attend an event is not attendance at an event. This is a unique fix for Burning Man Project to help bridge the gap of 2 years without an event, a scenario that has never happened before and likely will never. Would have yielded very little money, a drop in the bucket for state budgets, but a crippling amount for our nonprofit that brings more than $75 million in revenue to Nevada each year. As Burning Man Project is no longer making these reservations available, the program has run its course. So the passage of this bill would likely bring no additional revenue to the state from Burning Man. It would, however, be an unfortunate commentary on Nevada's support for Burning Man. We thank you for your time and consideration and urge you to vote no on SB 367's amendment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go to the next person on Zoom. Do you have additional comment, or were you just there as backup?
I was just here as backup. No additional comment at this time from me, Raymond Allen.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's go then to, I don't think we have anybody else on Zoom. Let's go to phones, BPS, if the next person in opposition.
Callers, if you would like to speak in opposition to SB 367, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once more, that's star 9 now to voice opposition to SB 367. Thank you, Senator Dennis. No callers wish to voice opposition at this time.
Okay, thank you. I just need one clarification. I think the comment, because she was cutting in and out, she made the comment that something about the fee having run its course. Does that mean you're not, that was just a temporary thing you were doing and you're not doing that in the future?
Marnie Benson, for the record, with Burning Man Project. That's correct, sir. This was a one-time fix to help us bridge our time to the next event in 2022.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go then to testimony for those in neutral. Anyone wishing to give testimony in neutral? Don't have anyone in the room. I don't think anybody's on Zoom. How about online, on the phones?
Callers, if you would like to offer neutral testimony on SB 367, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 577, please state and spell your name for the record. You may begin.
Good afternoon, Chris Bailey, D-A-L-Y, Nevada State Education Association. Speaking in neutral on SB 367 on the amendment, however, NSCA has previously taken a position in support of SB 367 as introduced. We've talked a lot this session about revenue and about the need for new revenue for public education and other vital services in the state. And we appreciate Senator Neal's work on this bill and on other areas of the tax code to close loopholes and make sure that Nevada's tax revenues go uninterrupted. We will review these amendments adopted by the committee and hope we have an updated position, but today in neutral, but in support of you.
Thank you. Let's go to the next caller.
Thank you, Senator Dennis. The lines are open and working. However, there are no other callers at this time.
All right, we have, want to come up and give some closing comments? All right, we'll close the hearing on the support and neutral, but we'll come back to the presenter.
Okay, thank you, Senator Dina Neal, for the record. I think it's super, super important to understand that although I use the Burning Man example, the policy change to expand the admissions charge language, because I do see it as an expansion, is to make sure that that companies or entities that want to engage in this behavior in the future, that the state is taking the public policy position that that we want this to be included in the LET. I think the policy here is trying to establish the statutory construction that if an entity can charge a reservation amount of $4.75 to buy the actual ticket and to the event, and then $25 for the actual ticket, but yet the LET will only attach to the $25 and not the $4.75, that is not the envisioned policy of the state, and we would want that to be included in the LET, because it seems odd to allow that tax behavior to occur where you only want the LET to be charged to a lesser amount versus a higher amount. And so the reservation, which is giving you access, it is an admissions because they are trying to pay something for the right to purchase a ticket. So if any other entity minus Burning Man chose to do this, it is of the opinion of the tax department that, or really me, that that the LET should be applied to the actual reserve charge, because it is giving them access to the event and therefore admissions. In this particular situation, and I was listening to the testimony, we had went to the Burning Man site and it was non-refundable and non-transferable. And so that means that it was not anything that could be given to someone else. It was literally a fee that was then reserved for that individual to be used and could not be transferred to another person. Clearly, I guess it's been taken down off of their website, but we did check that like 3 hours ago. So those are my closing comments. It's an expansion. I understand that it's not a clarification. In my view, I saw it as an expansion to make sure that we were including future activity because we felt like it has a nexus to the LET.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we'll go ahead and close the hearing on SB 367 and turn it back over to you, Ms. Chair.
Okay, so SB 367 is, I don't know if, let me, hold on. All right, so so that finishes our business for today, and then we will go ahead and adjourn Senate revenue.
Comment, Madam Chair?
Oh, sorry. Public comment. So we will open up for public comment.
To make public comment on today's meeting, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the digits 577, please state and spell your name for the record. You may begin. Caller 577, please state and spell your name for the record. You may begin.
Hello, this is Chris Bailey from the Nevada State Education Association, DALY, reading comments today from Washoe County School District teacher Kalen Evans. He writes, I'm an educator in Washoe County, the president of Empower Nevada Teachers, and an NSEA member. I would love to be giving this public comment in person or even over the phone, but educators are in the classroom right now working hard to support the children in our community. Excuse me, I'm sorry. As you know, our own funding commission has recommended increasing education by $2 billion a year for us to reach an adequate funding level to get us near the national average. This increase, while very much appreciated, is only about 12% of the recommended amount. So we need to continue to invest more in education system. Reaching this goal will not happen overnight, but we have a great opportunity to move us even more forward by passing AJR 1 and allowing Nevadans to vote on whether they feel an increase in the money tax is appropriate to help fund education, healthcare, and other government agencies. Lawmakers should be applauded for their current push to protect the voting rights of Nevadans, so it makes sense that lawmakers would be considering taking the opportunity away from Nevadans to vote on mining taxes. If Democrats, Republicans, and independents don't want an increase in the mining tax, then they can vote no. That should be our decision as tax-paying citizens. Lawmakers are elected public servants whose job it is to carry out the will of their constituents, so please let your constituents' priorities be heard by letting us vote on AJR 1. Educators, their families, community supporters of education are watching closely, so it's important that lawmakers on both sides of the aisle stay true to their promises to support our education system. Education organizations will continue to be active in bringing awareness to the dire issues plaguing our public education system. We will take to the streets, organize, and use all communication outlets to get our message out there because the community needs to know the realities facing our education system. And as they do, lawmakers who continue the status quo of underfunding our education system will feel more and more pressure from their constituents. Nevadans are done allowing our public education system to fail. This issue is too important. Thank you to all of you who truly support fixing our education system together. Let's continue in this fight together. Pass AJR 1. Let your constituents vote. Thank you, Kaylin Evans. Appreciate it.
Callers, if you are just joining us, we are in public comment for today's meeting. If you would like to make public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller 157, please state and spell your name for the record. You may begin.
For the record, my name is Susan Kaiser, Kaiser, and I'm a National Board Certified Educator. Health and Human Services staffing ratios of 300 patients to 1 psychiatrist is alarmingly below what would really help Nevadans who need this critical service. Our state parks are not staffed adequately to meet the needs of the increasing numbers of users. Employees of the Nevada Division of Wildlife are stretched thin, which compromises their management of these natural resources. The list goes on, and of course this underfunding is also reflected in the lessons taught in public schools, which is my area of expertise. The history of Nevada includes many examples of boom and bust economic cycles. They may be related to the ore in the mine running out, a Great Recession, or even a world pandemic. But whatever the cause, our state economy has always been slow to return to normal. Given this history, I understand the strong feeling of sweeping funds into a rainy day fund because we will certainly find ourselves in the midst of another thunder shower. What I do not understand is the mindset of those who cite the federal government's rescue monies as the solution to a decades-long problem, which is specifically the underfunding of nearly all public services in the state. I'm asking you to create a consistent long-term revenue stream which will provide funding to fill the gaps in all our public services. Those industries who have grown and flourished, such as real estate and development, mining, and other services and events, they could surely pay a greater share of this burden to improve the economy for all. Just because I can teach 13 different science concepts using dried beans doesn't mean that I should have to. I'm asking you to invest in Nevada and show it by increasing state revenues. Please support AJR 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Neal. There are no other callers to offer public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you for that. So we will adjourn Senate revenue.